please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to the 2018 CNBC TV18 OVERDRIVE Awards jury round. Today we're on two-wheelers and it's been an exciting year because we've got just a handful of commuting motorcycles. Everything else is designed for the enthusiast, and that makes us so excited indeed. But before we go into that, let's meet our jurors. Our external two-wheel jurors comprise of hardcore track riders who truly enjoy burning some serious rubber on track and are equally capable of rationalizing a bike based on practicality. While we from the team have a slight edge over the others, being the first to test these motorcycles all around the year, sometimes well before their launch dates.
The Honda Click is a very quirky but yet very interesting scooter that Honda has come up with this year, and we all love the fact that it is still as much fun to ride as the Navi which it is based on. And the biggest highlight of the Click to me is the fact that it is the most affordable scooter on the market right now.
Honda Click is something new for Indian market because the look is especially very different. While riding at the public road it will be comfortable, especially for office use, something like that. We have storage also under the seat.
This is meant to be a scooter for more rural use and utilitarian, but it is still fun to ride. That engine still offers so much punch. It uses the same 110cc engine as the Activa 4G.
I think it's a very nice new scooter from Honda. The matte paint finish is trendy, appealing to a younger audience. The mag wheels, the LCD dash, the styling overall. I think it's a very cute little scooter, and I think the only downside to the scooter is that it's a little tad underpowered. Riding two up in the city, I feel it needed a little more punch.
It felt like it was sort of doing something on its own, like a dance, but then it got around the track and I said, thumbs up.
But overall, it's a good scooter and I think it'll appeal to the younger audience.
The Bajaj V12 is one of two 125cc commuters we have in the contenders list this year, and it's the smaller sibling of the V15 that Bajaj started off with as part of its V series of motorcycles. It gets a 5-speed gearbox, which is something that I like because not too many 125cc bikes use 5-speed gearboxes even today, which adds to the efficiency.
The bike looks is very heavy and solid, but while riding the handling is very easy to handle the bike. Engine power is very less, I can feel it, because the bike looks too solid and bigger, but when we see the bike normally, okay, this bike will perform better, it looks like something different or bigger, something like that. But when we ride the bike, it's like underpower engine, we can say. But one good thing is the front handling is very good. The front fork is more stable. Whenever you try to brake harder also, you're not getting any like unstable and washout feel and all. It's a solid fork, I can say. The front is too solid, so it's good part for safety wise. But apart from that, if they have extra power, it will be happier for buying customer.
I think the styling of the Suzuki Intruder 150 is overkill, but once you look past that outlandish design, there's a very nice motorcycle in there.
I wasn't expecting it to be out of sorts even here at the racetrack because it's based on the Jigsaw, solid platform. So all of those issues, refinement, handling, ride quality, all of that works. And therefore it always brings you back to the styling and how much it interrupts your ability to appreciate and really like the Intruder.
Overall, it is a nice product, priced well for what it is meant to be.
The fact that it is such a large looking motorcycle does work well with its target customer, and I think it will be a popular cruiser. But basically it's the styling. If you like it, it's a very good bike. If you don't like it, it's a good bike but could have looked better.
The Hero Glamour 125, I found it to be a very stylish and elegant looking commuter. You know, the sharp lines on the motorcycle with its alloy wheels, make for a good looker.
The Glamour 125 is one of the sweeter 125cc class motorcycles you can buy. It's a very nice commuter. I do think that it benchmarks what happens in the segment in terms of the shine, etc., and does a slightly better job of it overall.
I was actually quite pleasantly surprised for how well it handled for being a commuter motorcycle. I found the brakes to be adequate as well. When I took it out on the bumpy surfaces, the suspension was very compliant, and that provided for a very smooth and relaxed riding experience.
Like I keep saying, this year the standards are sky high. There are some spectacular motorcycles, and something like a Glamour has a very hard chance this year. The Bajaj Pulsar 160 is a good commuter overall, but unfortunately this year it doesn't stand out, because while we don't compare the 160 directly to other motorcycles of bigger displacements or other roles, in their roles there are motorcycles this year that are much better than what it does.
It's obviously not as fun or as powerful as its elder brothers in the NS series, but you know, overall a decent package. I found that the brakes were a little bit lacking, and in terms of the engine, the refinement wasn't as good as your Japanese counterparts. There was a lot of vibration, but you know, other than those small areas, I think overall they did deliver on what it's supposed to do.
The FZ25, honestly, I was not surprised at how easy it is to ride that motorcycle, because Yamaha tends to make good motorcycles, and the FZ is that. It's out on the street, it reminds you of a slightly hopped up, slightly mature FZ16, a very, very good thing for that kind of motorcycle to be. Out on the track, it retains its composure no matter how hard or easy you're going.
The bike handles very well, and you know, the performance is pretty good as well. I found the brakes kind of to be lacking, and you know, the fact that it has no 6th gear are minor niggles, but all in all, for a bike that's priced at about 1.4 lakh, I think it's excellent value.
So very easy, very sweet, very high quality, very nice price. Again, it will be among the top contenders this year. Alright, so now that we're done with the commuters, it's time for you to go get some popcorn, because after the break we've got every single juicy motorcycle that's come out this year. That's the meat of the segment. You want to come back as soon as possible.
Allopathy ho ya Ayurveda. My health insurance treats them all equally. Health wallet, be Windshot.
Welcome to Gabon, an African hub that is a gateway to the region. More than 40 years of institutional stability driving the business environment. Established special economic zones, world-class ports and infrastructure facilities. We are open for investments. Gabon calling.
ICICI Bank and CNBC have really put in a concept which nourishes entrepreneurship, not just entrepreneurship but the best entrepreneurship.
ICICI Bank, Business Banking and CNBC TV18 present the 10th Emerging India Awards, powered by CRISIL.
Presenting sponsor ICICI Bank Business Banking, powered by CRISIL.
It has been a turbulent time for Indian banks. Mounting bad loans and low credit offtake have been plaguing the industry. However, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Armed by a new law and backed by the regulator and the government, Indian banks are in the process of resolving the issues. Witness the game changers of the Indian banking industry in conversation with Tamal Bandhopadhyay at the 11th Mint Annual Banking Conclave on 6 February in Mumbai.
देश के सभी शहरों में 14 हफ्तों में सबसे भरोसेमंद एंकर्स के साथ सबसे तेजी से आगे बढ़कर आज तक को पछाड़ नंबर 1 बना न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया डंके की चोट पर।
Welcome back to the 2018 CNBC TV18 Overdrive Awards, the jury round. We're talking about motorcycles today. We've seen the small ones. Now it's time to see the really fat part of the enthusiast segment. Motorcycles that you can afford, motorcycles that are genuinely fast, motorcycles that you and I can afford, keep, ride hard.
So the KTM 250 is obviously new to India. I mean, we had the 200 and the 390, and for this year obviously there's a 250 out. It's a beautiful package. I think in my opinion it's probably a very well-rounded package for somebody who's beginning to learn how to ride a motorcycle or upgrading, even from, let's say, from an R15.
I think styling-wise it checks all the right boxes. LCD dash is typically what KTM users would expect. New buyers would be enthralled to see this motorcycle with the nice peppy package that they put together.
It handled really nice. I mean, I felt it really stable through the corner, through the entry, the apex, the exits. It felt like a motorcycle that that I would probably say, yeah, you know, if it was my first buy or a second buy even, it's something that I think I would really give it a lot more consideration than the 390.
Honestly, I was a little bit surprised by the 302. At the road test, we knew it was a good bike, but at the racetrack, I was a little surprised because it actually is quite a nice bike. I think a little bit of work needs to go in to finish it a little bit more. So I would say tackle vibration a little bit. I would tackle the weight of that motorcycle a little bit, but it handles very nicely. The engine sounds great. There's a small error in calculation there because you have to be buried in the red for it to actually go. So you're actually past the red line when the Benelli is doing its best work, which I think is basically a color mistake on the mirror, on the meter, literally.
What you get is basically a motorcycle that feels like a big bike, and it also kind of, has the big bike looks. All in all, I would say that, to ride, the motorcycle feels very well planted through the corners. It's the handling wise, it checks all the right boxes. But that probably owes to the fact that it's a very heavy motorcycle that adds to, the stability factor and, the kind of confidence it inspires through the corners. One huge minus for this motorcycle would be the brakes. They're very, very shuddery and they really lack feel.
Overall, very, very impressive from what we were expecting from it. Again, this year, the standard is really, really high. So I don't know that the Benelli stands there in the top 3-4 motorcycles, but very nice bike on its own. The Duke 390 is like a perennial giant killer because KTM seem to pack so much performance in and then not charge a whole lot of money for it. So they have become expensive this year, so they're over 2.5 lakh rupees this time. So it's not a frighteningly cheap motorcycle anymore where everybody else would be really scared about the KTM's pricing. But still, the amount of stuff that they're packed in terms of sheer equipment and the fact that this motorcycle is more refined, more mature, much nicer to ride and therefore much more capable, the combination is devastating.
The engine is very, very refined. The gearbox is also extremely refined and smooth. The brakes are excellent on this bike. The power delivery is linear. And if you like, the Super Duke looks, this bike, is basically a shrunk down version of that. I think it's a great looking motorcycle. It basically ticks all the right boxes and the biggest thing about this bike for me is the price.
To me, it will be one of the top contenders this year, if not the winner.
Bajaj Dominar 400 had a huge list of expectations from the motorcycle. On riding the motorcycle, it felt shaky and the engine vibrated a lot when it went to a high RPM. The brakes feel a little wooden. It was a tad let down as far as overall power. They could have done a little better with it.
In my opinion, I think it's a motorcycle that's trying to be something, but it's really not doing the job. It's got a sort of a toned down version of the Duke 390, if you call it that. I think most people would probably sort of say it's got very similar characteristics, but it's really, really toned down. The brakes don't seem to work very well at all. It's also sort of just pretty heavy to throw around. It's definitely less expensive than the 390, for example, but I didn't really sort of say it stands out in something, but at the same time it's trying to be multiple things in one motorcycle.
The Harley-Davidson Street Rod is a more evolved version of the Street 750 that was launched a couple of years ago. And in terms of riding dynamics, I think the Street Rod is a huge, huge improvement over what the Street 750 was.
The minus point with that bike is especially the footrest, because we normally, if this kind of bike, if you are buying, means we'll like to do long travel, touring kind of thing. But the footrest is too much upright, like maybe if the rider is above 5.9, maybe if they are lesser than 5.7, it will be okay. But if they are above 5.8, something like that, your knee is coming above on the tank. So it's giving abnormal seating position, means if you ride for maybe 50 km, 80 km, you will get very tired, especially with your lower body. With this bike, the front is very stable. In that sector, they work very well, and the levers and all feeling very comfortable because the levers looks very, very bigger, even a clutch or brake lever. But when you apply the brake, it feels more softer and more easier to apply. For me, if I want to buy this bike for touring, definitely I won't buy, because for the bike, the seating comfort is very, very important, especially for long rides. So that is what we expect, not there in that bike.
Street Triple S is the lesser potent version of the Street Triple RS that has been launched this year. It's still the same old friendly, easy to ride motorcycle that makes it easy for anybody even without experience on bigger bikes to jump onto it and start riding the bike. Of course, you've got a bigger engine with slightly more power as compared to what the previous generation offered.
Technically, I'm saying whenever you apply the brake or whenever you're approaching the corners into the in racetracks or whenever you want to open gas as soon as possible, everything the bike is supporting. For on road, it's perfect because the power delivery is very smooth. Not like some other bike, because some other bike, if you touch the throttle, the power delivery is very erratic. So suddenly you will get uncontrolled, something like that. But with this bike, always the bike is into your hand. Whatever you're saying, the bike is doing that, something like that.
The handling is still as sweet as ever. The power delivery is nice. Although I think the Street Triple S particularly is priced slightly higher than it should be.
MV Agusta Brutale 800. Oh well, mixed bag of beans. Typically an Italian supermodel. Beautiful $1 million looking bike. Could bite our head off at any time.
It's nice, it's brutal, but it's just not the right way of brutal. The engine's really strong, right? But at the same time, it doesn't seem like it wants to sort of go beyond a certain point. I mean, you're looking at 800cc, but it just feels like it's underperforms on that front.
Handling-wise, it's a little stiff. The trellis frame makes it feel not really wanting to go into corners. You know, it's not most comfortable there.
It looks fantastic. The styling's great. Very twitchy. The bike is just not what I call if you chop the throttle, you get back on the throttle. It just wants to do a lot of things, and that's affecting the chassis, the handling. But once it's in a straight line, it just feels like it revs really quick. It gets to 170, 180, especially in these tracks, fairly quick. But it just doesn't give me a feel that do I really want to spend that kind of money to own a Brutale, apart from the name or the style.
Overall, I think it's a great urban motorcycle, good hooligan bike, ride around the street, strut around, good for that.
I must be one of the last guys in Overdrive to really get my hands on the Street Triple RS, and I think they say you save the best for last. That worked for me because as soon as you take it out on track, it's just such a sweet motorcycle taken to such a nice place where there's a blend of ease of use and capability packed in so closely together. I think it's brilliant.
Triumph has come out with a motorcycle that ticks every single box. You know, in terms of what you could use this bike for, it's so versatile, it's so agile, you know, it feels as at home on the racetrack as it does on the street. You know, it has a race mode and a street mode. On race mode, it's kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, it kind of unleashes a beast within, and the insane power delivery is something that I instantly fell in love with. Excellent fit and finish, the quality was amazing, the brakes were great, the display, the gauges, everything feels premium, as well as the tires. They come on Pirelli Supercorsa tires, which are very, very grippy tires, and they seem to work well on the road and on the track.
I've always said that the Street Triple range in India has been slightly more expensive than it needs to be. I think it needs to be about ₹1 lakh cheaper across the board. So to me, the RS is a little bit more expensive, but promise you, everybody in pit lane agrees it's expensive, but they'd spend the money and get one.
Triumph Street Scrambler. It's a great looking motorcycle. I think typically retro urban look. Triumph's gone out there, try to enthrall some new audiences with the styling. I think it's quite a new market out there for these kind of motorcycles. Triumph fits the bill well.
So the Triumph Scrambler, I really don't know where it's going because I don't know what kind of a motorcycle that is. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a hipster thing, something that you just say, okay, I'm taking to the coffee shop because it looks cool. But honestly, it's it's pretty sad for a motorcycle to be, that price. And it just pretty much goes straight. The foot pegs were scraping, I don't think more than 10 degrees of a lean angle, 10, 15, 20 degrees, and it was just already scraping. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of that motorcycle is. Does it go? I think on a straight line it kind of felt like it wanted to go, but it was really nothing that I just remember to say, oh, you know what, I rode the Scrambler. And with a name like a Scrambler, I would have thought it does a little bit more stuff. But it just doesn't, it's just a motorcycle that doesn't make any sense.
The Honda Africa Twin is a very special motorcycle to get launched this year, and that's for several reasons. One of the most important reasons I think is the fact that it is the only motorcycle to feature an automatic transmission, which adds to the convenience of riding a full-size adventure tourer like the Africa Twin is. But at the same time, I think it's very interesting to note that it uses a 1000cc twin-cylinder engine, which makes it leaner as compared to the bigger, heavier 1200cc full-size adventure tourers. And when it comes to tackling off-road and dirt conditions, I think the Africa Twin is really good at it, and that's particularly thanks to its 21-inch front wheel, the suspension, and gets a dedicated gravel mode. And these are aspects which help it become a good motorcycle when it comes to riding off-road.
Today I test the bike on-road also, off-road also. While changing from on-road, normal road to off-road also, I'm not getting any unstable and disadvantage on that bike. It feels much better always. In this bike, what I'm saying is the bike comfortable range is very, very higher. The bike engine power delivery is very good. At the same time, we have like scooter type also we can ride it. If you want to use gear type also, you can use it. And there are a lot of things are there to do because you're getting ABS, blah blah things are there. So it will give more comfortable, more confident while riding on the bike. It's very competitive pricing, 15 lakhs we are getting means it's good. So in this segment, if I want bike, I'll definitely choose Honda Africa Twin.
The Triumph Bonneville Bobber, I think, is an interesting take on the bobber segment from the British manufacturer. Bobbers are getting hugely popular in the country. We've seen at least a couple of launches in the last year or so. And I like the bobber particularly for the fact that it is such a sweet motorcycle, be it in terms of the design. It looks very attractive. A lot of people really want to turn around and look at the motorcycle the second time.
11 lakh is quite high for this bike, I'm feeling like that. But long ride, definitely we can do with this bike because not like other bike, the seating position, it's completely different. It's giving more comfort. The power is very smooth, especially. You feel you can ride more, something like that. So overall it's okay, but pricing is a little bit higher.
The only drawback I can think of is the fact that the bobber is a single seater only. You do not get a pillion seat, so you can only ride it alone.
The brake is very bad, I can say, because it's like lazy. While you're applying the brake, the brake is not holding the wheel. Means the bike, I couldn't stop early as soon as possible. It's making it very difficult to ride.
I think the engine on that motorcycle is beautiful. We've seen it's the same tried and tested engine seen on the Truxton before, and it is very refined, lots of power and lots of mid-range and low-end torque, which makes it nice to ride.
Harley-Davidson Fat Bob, the VMAX, the Brutus. Yeah, nice, muscular, butch-looking motorcycle. Tad little heavier on the front, just like most Harleys. Little reluctant to turn in, feels a little heavy on the outside. I think the styling is very nice. It's a good urban iteration that Harley-Davidson has put out there. Will appeal to a lot. I think it's good for single riding. Suspension is a little stiff riding two up. Good bike overall.
The Fat Bob, I think I kind of enjoyed it, honestly speaking. It was a really nice handling bike. The ergonomics could have been obviously better, but it's not meant to do that. It's not meant to go through corners. But it felt nice, it felt stable, good brakes, decent through the corners, except for the fact that it doesn't have enough of a lean angle to get you through even guard sections. So it's a little bit of obviously a cruiser, go to a coffee shop kind of bike. But I thought it was it's nice, but again, it's a surprise in terms of nice.
All right, so 2017's been a great year. The 2018 awards are going to be spectacular, I think, because look at the motorcycles we've got, look at the cars we've got. Every single car or motorcycle has something honest to say about the market. It brings so much ability and so much capability to the market. I'm very, very excited. Now, the next thing are the awards themselves. 5th February is the date. You want to follow us. We are at ODMag on Overdrive. We are at CNBC TV18 for the news channel. Follow us, see what's going on. All the awards will be out on the 5th night. Until then,